This is a review of the book The Sinquefield Chess Generation, Young Guns at Work. And here you can see the names of these players that were taken into consideration. The number one is Andrew Tang, then followed by Jeffrey Xiong, Samuel Savian, Akshat Chandra, and Awonder Liang and John M. Berkey. St. Louis. Okay, the book was written by Alex Colovic, a Grandmaster, but here we can read more about him. Alex Colovic was born in Skopje in 1976. He has a BA in English Language and Literature and became Grandmaster in 2013. A chess professional for more than 20 years, participated in more than 200 international tournaments around the world. So clearly a very good chess player, professional that is going to teach us about these chess players. The book is divided in chapters. We have practically 6 chapters, and in the end is dedicated a little bit to the rest of the world. Obviously, in 2024, we know that these so-called talents, American talents, are not in contention for the World Championship, while the Indian talents, they are all at the candidate matches, which means probably they were work harder or had better coaches. I honestly don't know. The game that I would like to try to show you, obviously I will show you a game for each of these young Americans that are promising, or that maybe are not promising anymore, because obviously the book was written like 2 or 3 years ago, and so things maybe have changed. Honestly, America offers a lot of opportunities. Maybe if one gets a degree, he can make more money than as chess player, maybe. So game number 3 is between Brunello Sabino, an Italian player, and Tang Andrew in Riga 2017. It starts with d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop e7. Tang always chooses this move order in the Queen's Gambit decline. Knight f3, knight f6, bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, castle, e3, b6. The Tartakova variation is Tang's main defense against the 5 bishop g5 line of the Queen's Gambit decline. It offers a solid and pliable position that fits his preferences. So why did I choose this book for a review? Because I think many young players or people who started just to play chess dismiss the importance of watching games which are well annotated. And that's something they shouldn't do, because you get a book like this, you watch all your games on the chessboard, you surely learn something. You learn maneuvers, ideas, and thanks to Grandmaster like Colovic, one can learn more about the game of chess for really free, because maybe the book is just $20, so who cannot afford $20 to learn more about chess? Bishop e2, bishop d7, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, c takes d5, d takes d5, and castle. Here there is a diagram. The position is after castling. This line was popular in the 1970s thanks to Korchnoi efforts. Korchnoi was a very important player in that time. He was twice candidate to the World Championship. He fought matches with Karpov, and unfortunately he always lost. But nowadays it's considered that black can equalize against it. So here there are different choices of moves, okay? One is queen e7, that is the one played in the game. The other, which could be knight d7, is the main line. So sometimes uh, some of these young grandmasters try to choose lines less used to see if the opponent preparation is good or not. Obviously, the comments given by Grandmaster Colovic are a little more thorough than what I can do in a video. Queen b3, rook d8, rook ad1. And yet there is another diagram. Now it's black to move. You sometimes can pause the video and try to guess what you would play if you were black. Here it says, if this had been black's intention, perhaps it would have been worth playing it on the previous move instead. So what did black played at this point? He played c6. Colovic says that maybe c5 was more principled and was Geller's choice. Geller was another grandmaster very important in the 1950s up to the 70s, I think. And of course, it gives some information about a line you could play as black. Okay, but during the game it was played c6, rook f e1, knight d7, and e4. Again, we have a diagram in the book, and now you can also think what would you play if you were black. Because the point of a book review is to give you information on the book, but it's also to give you a chance to think for yourself and see what are the differences between your line of thoughts and what was played on the board. Andrew Tang in that time, in 2017, was 2,475. So clearly, international master level player, maybe underrated, maybe already a GM, as understanding of the game. And here Andrew Tang played 15 knight f8. A typical reaction in the Tartakova against White's central push, but here it's probably not the best in view of a queen being exposed on the e5. It says that it was more natural to play d takes e4, and obviously it gives a line because this move was played in another game between Anand and Hari Krishna in 2014. So that's also interesting because obviously there is a research from the author of the book about what was played before. Notice this, I would like to show you. The diagram of analysis are smaller than the diagram of the game moves, of the moves played in the game. So this is also something that you can find in this book and that could be interesting for you. So after knight f8, what did White play? Here obviously we have two possibilities. One is taking and one is advancing, right? In the game, White advanced, probably trying to get some space. But it would have also been e takes d5, a possible alternative, which would have given White a slight advantage. Okay, so that's interesting. Bishop d5 and g3. And now black plays queen d7. Very interesting move, right? Because he's trying to go to exploit the light squares, but yet this white still has this bishop, so it will be interesting to see what he does about it. Okay, knight takes g5, and here it says this is tempting, but the structure with the pawn on g5 turns out to be quite resilient, as it prevents white's expansion on the king side. The alternative here was bishop d3, okay? And here it gives obviously a line, and there is the diagram for analysis, so it's definitely interesting. So knight takes g5, h takes g5, and what does white play now? Well, it plays a dubious move. Can you find what you would play if you were white? White played in the game bishop f1, which is not the best. It seems that queen c2 is better. Okay, and here it's given a line in the explanation. So bishop f1, queen g4. The queen is well placed here, exerting pressure on the center and preventing any advances on the king side. The only problem is that she can be chased away, but time was possibly checking Brunello's determination to play for a win. By the way, Brunello in 2017, he was already a Grandmaster. He was rated 2566, so he was already a good Grandmaster. That's interesting. Okay, so after Queen G4, Knight E2. White doesn't want to repeat after 20 bishop e2 and plans to expand on the king side, but black has a good control over the light squares on the king side, and this expansion leads to a weakening of the white king. Knight e6, king e3, and rook c8. Notice that here it tells us that black could have played also c5 or bishop a6. They were possible alternatives that were good as well. Meanwhile, white follows up with this plan, that is f4. There was also another way to expand, which was with h3, and here the author gives a line to explain it, but in the game was played f4. How did the black continue? Well, black continued to play bishop a6. Black indirectly put pressure on f4, h3, queen f5, f takes g5. And here we have another diagram. The book is really nice because it has a lot of diagrams, so one can actually try to see the game without using the board. Okay, because I see that practically we have a diagram every 3 or 4 moves. So this is kind of very interesting. Bishop takes c2. Black eliminates the knight that could have come to f4. Okay, so that's really interesting also as a comment, because it shows us that white created an outpost there, but he will not be able to use it. Now, here it says that if you were black, and instead of that move, bishop takes e2, you would have taken here, okay? Knight takes d5, that would have been a mistake. That could have made you lose the game. So eventually, please try to do some of your homework, try to guess why it was a mistake, what happens after, and see why instead the move bishop takes e2 is the best one. Rook takes e2, queen takes g5, and queen f3. White is persistent in his play for an attack. And here it gives us an idea of what would have happened if White would have exchanged queens and the kind of endgame they would have ended up in. This is also important because when we are in the middle game, sometimes we must start to plan and understand which type of endgame we will end up to. C5, D takes C5, B takes C5, H4, Queen D6. Again, here we have another diagram. As you can see throughout the book, there are a lot of diagrams, and this is particularly good if you want to train your visualization and eventually follow the game without using a chessboard. Rook f2. Here it says that instead of rook f2, bishop h3 was an interesting alternative, and explain it with a good variation. So you can check it in the book if you will buy it. Knight takes d4, queen f4, and the white keep the tension. However, it says that also rook takes d4 was a good idea because it would have been more in line with white's attack. And also in this case, he always gives a line to explain it. There is a line and the analysis diagram that is quite long. So after queen f4, he plays rook c7, bishop h3. At critical moment, neither side has any direct threats, although the tension in the position is obvious. In such situations, it's natural to seek forcing moves, but black realizes that there aren't any good ones and make a generally useful move. Can you guess what black played in this situation? Try to pause the video and guess. A5. Black keeps the tension and puts the pressure on white to come up with something concrete. And here the author analyzes a few other moves of black, like knight e6 or queen e4, okay? And gives some evaluation and a little line. Okay, so it's very interesting that the book gives us also alternatives. Now it's white side to move. What do you think white will play? White played e6. White goes forward and forces the issue. A possibility was b3, to wait a little and see what black would do. This is a little more forcing. e6, rook e7, e takes f7, rook takes f7, and here there is a mistake by white. So try to find what white should have played in this move. The correct move here is queen g4. Instead, white played queen takes f7. If you will have a book, eventually you will follow all the lines. It's about a 6-7 moves line, and understand why it's wrong. Rook, queen takes f7, rook takes f7, king takes f7. King f2, king e7. This is the difference. The king is centralized quickly, and thanks to the strong centralization, black has a winning endgame. So this is also the importance of why we need to study the endgames, because probably Andrew Tang, already reaching his visualization this point, knowing that his king would be more active, and knew that he would win, because you don't do this kind of exchanges without having a clear idea of where you're going. Okay, so after king e7, bishop g4 was played, king d6. Notice that the king is making this walk, rook d2, f8 check, king e3, knight c6. This is also an interesting endgame because sometimes the knight is not as strong as the bishop, but it seems that here it is. And then there is the fact that the pawn on the d5 for black is a pass pawn. Okay? Here the author writes, black wants to play d4, which is quite deadly for white. Tank's technique doesn't allow any chances, and he wins the game convincingly. Now let's see how he wins the game convincingly. Okay? Rook g2, d4, rook d2, king d2, knight e5, bishop e2, c4. Clearly, I think it was Ninsovic who said, when you have pass pawn, you need to push it. So here it is. Clearly, Tang did understood the necessity of this position. d4, king d5, h5, d3, bishop d1, king d4, g5, rook d8. And now there is king c1, and now there is a new diagram. And after the diagram, there is no real comment. There are only the moves of the game that continues with c3, b takes c3 check, king takes c3, h6, g takes h6, g takes h6, knight c4, rook g3, pinning the pawn, knight a3, threatening checkmate, bishop b3, a4, h7, a takes b3, a takes b3, rook f8, fantastic, rook g1, and knight c2. Here black is threatening d2 check, and then you can give another check with knight e3, depending on where the king goes, or mating with obviously rook e8 and rook e1. Okay, so it depends what white will play. In any case, here the game ended. Probably white resigned, and there is a comment saying, Tang also likes to attack and knows how to play with the initiative. When given the chance, he is aggressive and very dangerous, and there is, in the next game, an example of how dangerous he can be. So I noticed that this review went on for 23 minutes. I wanted to show you other games, but clearly it could become a little too boring to have a review that takes like 1 hour. If there will be interest, I will be very happy to show other games from this book. This was Thinkers publishing a real nice book of games played by these good and young talented chess players, all annotated by Alex Colovic. Hope you will enjoy.